Hi, hello, it's Friday. I only have 2 goals for today. And those goals include getting my work done, which is I think it's only gonna be about 3 hours of work, which is not bad. The good news is that because I only have a few hours of work to do, I can spread them out. So like I could literally do a couple 4 45-minute sprints of work throughout the day, just spread out when I fit them in. And I'll still get my work done, which is ideal. My second priority of today is to write. Literally just write. That is the only priority. I don't have anything else to do today. I have felt like I've kind of been stuck in a rut. I think it's because I've just had a lot going on as far as like social stuff goes, as well as work. And obviously like the second job or the week before last week was pretty busy with that. I also had a bigger project I had to finish this week, and I've just really not been able to focus on writing, and I keep needing to remind myself that it needs to be priority, like on the same level of priority as my work. And with my job, I should have the time to do that. I can spread my job out however I want. I can do less hours on one day, more hours on another. I'm a freelancer, like I should be able to spread things out so that I can get that writing time in. And it's just getting to the point where I know I need to like crack down on myself and make sure that I actually am getting that writing time in, even if it costs a little bit of like my social time or something. That is the plan for this Friday, and that plan will begin as soon as my grocery shopper gets here and gives me my coffee, because I need that first. Oh, also, I finished reading Wicked Souls by Katie Wismer, and I loved it. I expected to love it anyways because I enjoyed the first book, The Marionettes. But for some reason, and you know what, it was probably just when I started reading it, it was the reason that I stopped reading it, because I had gotten a few chapters in and then I had stopped reading. And I think what happened was I read The Marionettes and I was so excited about The Marionettes and the cliffhanger that I wanted to read what happened next. And I think I read what happened next, and then I just like kind of forgot. And I mean, life probably got busy. I think it was at the end of last year when I was reading these books. So, that was a very busy time, but I did finally get around to finishing it, and I absolutely loved it. This is my favorite fantasy romance that I have written in a while. The romance in particular was written really well for me. Like I really enjoyed it. It was very slow burn, which I love. And just like the very romantic scenes, I just thought were written so, like they didn't seem cringy. They didn't seem abnormal or anything. It just seemed like really, really good romance, you know? So I loved it. However, I am in fact now upset because the third book is not out yet and I want to read it. So story of every reader's life. But my groceries should be here soon, so I will check in with you when I get to start writing. Also, look at this. I put a new shelf up to kind of just like store things a bit better. So I have a bunch of books on there, some of my favorites, little trinkets, some plants. I love it. It's great. This really added to my kind of little office corner. And then my whiteboard, which is lacking in some situations, but that's such a good quote. That's from the book another book that I'm working on, which is actually listed right here. Look at the size of this bag. So good. So good. This is what we were waiting for. This is what I need right now. I saw a comment the other day of someone saying that one thing they weren't prepared for in adulthood was the amount of cardboard boxes that they would find themselves with. And I know exactly what they're talking about. So I just wrote 1,762 words. To be fair, I did not write all of them today. Not a couple of them, but like a couple hundred of them were from yesterday, I think, or the day before. But I've started tracking again in Pacemaker. I want some sort of like quantifiable way to track, I guess. I feel like this is probably just going to be a constant struggle for me, is wanting to use word counts or some sort of numeric measurement for tracking my progress, but making sure that it doesn't go to my head and make me feel bad if I'm not actually hitting those goals. So it's a balance that we're gonna have to strike, but I think that sometimes tracking them is just really helpful. I feel like it just helps me see how much I have left, and it helps me like visualize it a little bit better, because otherwise I'll just be drafting and I'll feel like I'm underwater in muddy water and I have no idea what's going on around me in the story. So I'm tracking again on Pacemaker. I have about 1,700 words today. I'm gonna stop at this amount for this book right now. I think that because it's the weekend tomorrow, so Saturday and Sunday I have like no plans or very, very small plans. So I think I should be able to write at least twice as much as my daily goal tomorrow and Sunday. So I'm gonna try and do that. So for the rest of tonight, because I kind of just want to enjoy myself, I'm going to do a little bit of research into sci-fi and fantasy magazines. This is something that I've been doing for probably the past few weeks now. Well, technically longer than that, but I've been more adamant about it the past few weeks. I'm trying to submit one of a few short stories that I have that I've been working on, but they're not done, but the ideas are there and they've kind of been started. I want to submit one of them to a magazine, so to a literary magazine that focuses on sci-fi or fantasy. So right now I'm in the phase of kind of just looking at those magazines and seeing who's accepting submissions and what the requirements for the submissions are, and seeing if any of the stories that I currently have on the go are going to fit that. I'm going to spend a little bit of time doing that. While we're having this conversation, I feel like I may as well like kind of segue into sharing all of the projects that I'm currently working on. That's something that I wanted to do anyways, so may as well be this video because I am working on multiple projects today specifically. I am working on multiple projects, but they still kind of have a priority order. So Between the Waves is still highest priority. It's like the primary project. It's where most of my writing time is going towards right now. So Between the Waves will be a full-length novel, high fantasy, pirate adventure, YA, if anyone is unfamiliar. So that's kind of the primary project that I'm working on right now. So the secondary project it's currently called Project White Knight. You may have heard me, I've touched on it a couple times in a few other vlogs, but very rarely because it's in such early stages that it hasn't really been going anywhere yet. But it is also a high fantasy. It is a Nordic inspired high fantasy. It has dragons and there's a quest that they go on, and the main character is basically like the messenger to the gods. So that one is currently in the planning stages right now. I think that because I'm someone that is going to be working on multiple projects most of the time, just because I think that's what works best for my brain. That's what I enjoy. I like working on multiple projects. I have never been one of those people that can only do one thing and kind of go all in on that one thing. I need to have multiple other projects that I am working on just to kind of like keep myself going and keep myself excited and not burn myself out on one single project that I'm trying to like go all in on. So since I insist on working on multiple projects at the same time, I think that it's probably going to be easier to do that if each of those projects are at a different stage. So Between the Waves is currently in draft 2 or 3, let's say 3, currently draft 3, I think. So we're kind of redrafting and doing a little bit of developmental editing as we go through that. Project White Knight is still in planning stages, so it's still being outlined, and I want to do quite a bit more research and outlining on that project before I actually dive into writing it. I would say project number 3 encompasses the sci-fi fantasy short stories. I actually think most of the short stories I have right now that are sort of actually have fully formed ideas are actually sci-fi, which is really fun. Those ones are also mostly in the planning stage or drafting or editing stage. They're kind of all varying distances along the timeline of writing, but those are kind of third priority, I guess. Once it gets past Between the Waves and Project White Knight, the priority doesn't really matter because it's kind of just whatever I feel like working on at that point in time. I think as I'm doing research into magazines for the short stories, obviously the priority might shift a little bit if there's like a deadline that I have to hit for a submission. So I'd say the next priority are those short stories, finishing drafting some of them, editing. I know I keep talking like there's multiple, so there are multiple short stories that are in varying stages of the writing process. I probably have about 4 I would consider as actual ideas that are sort of on the go, but like 2 of those are basically an idea plus a bit of outlining, so those will probably only be worked on further if they fit a submission better than the other ones that I have on the go. I feel like that's kind of confusing, but it's confusing for me too. There's just a lot of stories going on. And then I didn't really know if I should count it, but technically I'm always working on poetry. Poetry is one of those things where if I'm in my feels, the poetry just flows. It flows so much. So at the end of last year, I did kind of like a little poetry challenge where you basically write, I think it's 21 poems in 21 days maybe, which I can write like multiple poems in a night if I'm in that mood too. So I have this collection of poems and the theme was kind of like fairy tales, just like fairy tales in general, and I really liked them. They felt very whimsical, but with like undertones of really existential life advice basically. So I think I have 20 to 30 poems for that collection, I guess. And I don't know if that one will ever get published like professionally, or if I might just publish it on my Patreon. I'm not sure yet, but that is something that I work on if, like I mentioned, if I feel like it. So that's another project that is on the go. It would be a collection of poetry that is, the theme is like fairy tales. So that's kind of a continuing project, which again is different than the novel writing or the short stories because it's a different format. It's totally different as far as the flow is, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but like when I'm writing, the flow of poetry is like a different rhythm than writing a novel, like than writing prose fiction. So that's a nice way that I change it up, and that's something I'm working on and hope to do something with it one day. And then the final project, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then 5 is the final project. And again, I'm like not working on all of these all the time. The only one that has like probably 80% of my focus is Between the Waves. But the 5th project and the final project is my fun project. I mentioned it in a previous video, I think 2 vlogs ago maybe. And that is my dark fantasy romance novel that's like secret society, magic academy, enemies to lovers. I feel like you guys can probably tell that I'm like excited about that one, which is funny to me because I don't even know if I'm gonna do anything with it, but I'm just having a great time writing it. So those are all the creative writing projects I currently have on the go. It's just after 10 p.m. for probably, I don't know, half an hour to an hour maybe. I am going to work on my fun project, which I have a playlist for, and I mentioned it in my previous video, but it's basically like teen angst, late 90s to early 2000s pop punk music, and I'm just having a wonderful time writing it. And this is it's just like, it is really, I didn't know how to describe it last time, and I kind of said it was like a guilty pleasure project to be working on. It's just one of those projects that I'm like, God, this would be so fun and so entertaining to write, and I would have absolutely loved reading it when I was younger, when I was like a preteen and a teenager. Even now, I love this kind of book. So I think for the rest of the night, I'm actually gonna work on that one. I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna track words for it. I don't think so, but I don't know, we'll see. So I'm gonna work on that for a bit after I finish watching this episode of Winx because the new season is out and I like this show.
I was on fire, our house, our dreams. We were dancing on a wire, reckless it seems. We found holes in these walls.
It's 1:30 in the morning. Does anyone else have this issue? I was exhausted at 9 p.m. I was ready to get ready for bed basically by 10, have a nice early night and get a good night's sleep. And then it was like 9 p.m. turned to 1 p.m. in 15 minutes. And I know it was 4 hours later, but like, I don't even know where the time went. This always happens, but it's okay because I had a really fun time working on this project. It's so funny because this one's fully being pantsed right now. And it's kind of funny because I have major world building things, like decisions that need to be made for this novel that play a big role in how it's going to be written, and I still haven't made them, and it feels really weird because I feel like the past couple projects I've worked on, I've put more planning into them. But this one is full on pantsing. So I just finished chapter 1. I've got 2,173 words. Probably about 700 words of that was from the previous draft, I guess. When I first started writing this story and just pantsing it because I just felt like having fun, I was writing it in third person, past tense, and I want to write it first person present tense. So I basically went through and I rewrote, I think it was about 700 words, but it's more now because I added to it. And I just rewrote it so that it was in the correct point of view and tense, which it is now. And we're sitting at 2,173 words. So I kind of like rewrote 700-ish and then wrote, I guess, what is that, 1,400? Does that sound right? Yeah. Almost 1,500 words. I think with that, and then how many words did I write for Between the Waves? 1,762. So almost 4,000 words today, which I'm very happy with. I'm honestly really loving this story. I think I'm just enjoying the pantsing part of it. I did make good progress on Between the Waves as well today though. So it turned out to be a good writing day. I just wish I wasn't up so friggin' late. Stupid. Yeah, I'm gonna end the video off here. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about all of the projects that I currently have on the go. Like I mentioned, the projects are all at different levels, at different stages of the process, which I think makes it a little easier for me to be working on so many. And like I mentioned, I'm working like 80% at least on Between the Waves, and then the other 20% is spent on the other projects. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed hearing about all of my projects. If you did, or if you have any questions, please let me know. You can comment down below. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already and you enjoy writing and lifestyle videos. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.